G'day watchers, welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I have the pleasure to review none other than my first Panerai, the first Panerai I am featuring on this channel. It comes in this very nice but rather big box, really, very solid, wood construction and all that. Now they call this the small box, believe it or not, and so I'll show you the outer box that it comes in. They call it small box, so it makes me wonder what a large box or a medium box actually looks like. Now Panerai of course need no introduction. They're so well known in the world of watch enthusiasts, and they're pretty well marketed, but at the same time, they're not right at the forefront, so some people haven't really taken a close look at it. So hopefully you find this video interesting. I did do a video earlier about what Panerai I would choose if I had to make a choice among the current catalog. Now the PAM00914 is an absolute classic, but that's been discontinued. So among the current models, I think this would probably be the model I would choose. So guys, without further ado, let's flip the camera around and take a closer look at what's in here. Alright guys, so here we have the box on the table here, and it's it is wood, and in terms of spinnability, well, it's got felt underneath, as a lot of these do, so it's not highly spinnable, but I think that's at least a 2.5 or a 3, right? That's what I'm getting out of this. Now, before I open that, just a quick look at the manual, which is really not much of a manual, except for them to tell us that you're going to download the instructions online. That's really all it says, and then it moves on to other languages already. But what it does have inserted in here is, regulation reports. So the rate control reports here. So I'll just hold here and you can pause it and read it in detail if you want. But it's kind of neat, they've actually produced this for this specific movement. Just to say really that there is a very deliberate effort to regulate this very well, and it certainly is regulated to high accuracy in the time graph readings that I have got. Okay, so let's just open this and show it to you guys. So there is a cloth here, and the watch and stuff is underneath here, just to show you you can actually lift this up, and underneath there is where you would keep the manual. The extra strap that tends to come with Panerai watches, so it's a cowshed rubber. That's really what this is, right? With the original buckle, I've left it on there. That's the Panerai original polished buckle, right? With and then it's got the spring bar tubes in there. All right, I'm just going to put that aside. There is a very specific tool, a screwdriver design, very much use with this watch, and it fits perfectly. So that's the one to really use whenever you want to change the straps out. Okay, so just going to undo this and show you the watch here. Let's just push this aside now as well. So immediately you can see this is of course covered by the bezel guard or the case guard here, and it's got Panerai there, but this is of course not how it's meant to look. I'm not sure people really use this. I'd like to hear if any of you who own Panerai use this crown guard or this case guard whenever, but I've never seen people really take photos with this on. I think this is really maybe if you really want to do some rough work and keep your watch on, or for transport. All right, so that's the watch right there. This is, of course, the Panerai Luminor base 44mm 8 days. It says the 8 giorni, which is Italian for 8 days. That's really what that is. The model number is PAM00914. All links to products and websites down the bottom as I can find it. All right, so first up, as is my wont to do, is to talk about the movement in here. So guys, in here is the P5000 caliber, and you can see on the pictures and shots on camera here, it's not much of a movement to look at. It's just you're just looking at the finishing and the kind of caliber markings through that display window on the case back there. Of interest to me is that it's got that huge plate and some people call that a three-quarter bridge construction or something like that. But basically, very solid construction, because it's not little bridges; it's a massive plate on which all the other gears are fixed, and that gives you increased solidity of the movement, in my understanding. So stats down the left there, it is a 21,600 beat per hour movement, and for that 192 hour reserve, I'm not surprised they had to push it to 21,600 rather than a higher beat, because they generally would use more energy if it's a higher beat. So it's manual winding on this movement. There is of course no seconds display on this particular iteration, nor is there a date. The rated accuracy actually is not stated what they actually aim for, but you saw the rate control reports earlier, and in actual time grapher detection, this is coming up at around +4 to +5 seconds per day. Certainly performs to that in the roughly 3 weeks that I've had this watch now. Okay, so let's talk about the case now. So this case is classic Luminor, right? I mean, it's a 44mm, so classic size, 3160 steel. The bezel itself, if you just measure just the bezel, is 42.7mm. With the crown, if you want to measure the width with the crown, it's 50mm. Overall thickness is 13.5mm in thickness, 24mm lug width, which is the classic that you get with this 44mm Luminor cases, and the lug-to-lug distance is substantial at 53mm here. On the leather strap that this comes from, it's 125 grams in terms of total weight. The rubber, I think, is slightly more, but they're very, very similar. Finishing wise, as you've seen me pan it around, this case is 100% high polish, right? That's really what it is. The crown guard assembly is brushed, right? You can appreciate that as I show that to you. Okay, you can see the first screw in there, and the case back itself is also circular brushing. Hopefully you can appreciate that in the camera work here. So it's got a screw down display back and a patented crown seal, this crown guard type of mechanism here. It's a 300-meter water resistant rated watch in this case. Just showing you the operation of the crown guard in case you've not seen this. So there's a roller there that pushes on the crown, and as you open that lever, it relaxes it, and then you can actually wind it. Right, so it winds in that position. Very smooth, right? And it takes a long time to wind this up to 8 days. I pull that out to the first position, and then you can adjust the time. That's all there is to it in terms of the interaction, but it is of course very smooth and pleasant to do. All right, so that's the case. Let's talk about the dial now. So the dial here, I think you can see that it's a matte off black, not completely black. It's a little bit of an off black. If I put say the rubber strap next to it, you can see the black in here is not completely black. It's like a very dark gray, I want to say. So it's got a texture to it, a very fine matte texture. Printed details, right? Just Luminor, Panerai, 8 giorni, or 8 giorni if you want to say Italian, and then Swiss made down the bottom, and that's it. There's not even a chapter ring here. They really went for super simplicity here. The loom is kind of this, this kind of light brown beige color. I guess some people call this faux patina. They don't actually tell me what exact loom it is, so I assume it's a super luminova of some form. And in this case, hopefully you can appreciate the three-dimensionality of the dial here. It is, of course, a sandwich loom construction. Now, sandwich loom these days, at least, is not does not mean that the bottom surface is a complete disc of loom. They do actually cut deep gouges into the surface at the bottom and fill it with loom, and then the stenciled upper dial surface is put on top. I'll try to put a brief video here from Panerai which shows the construction of the modern sandwich dial. The hands are simple, black colored baton, hour and minute hands, right? There's no seconds hands, so just the two hands, loom on the hands, and of course the 12 index positions. And the loom, whilst I think green loom, traditional light green colored loom would probably last longer, this one is perfectly serviceable. definitely last through the night. And even on a kind of casual shot, I'm going to put a screenshot, at least on the corner here, of a casual shot taken by my iPhone. It kind of glowed very much, and I haven't touched up this photo. Right now, I'll just let the loom shot linger here otherwise to let you see how it glows in the dark. Okay, so around the dial, you've seen that fixed, slightly stepped, polished bezel there, and on top of the dial, a lightly domed sapphire crystal, right? And with anti-reflective coating treatment, of course, you can see how that kind of works out in the lighting in this room here. Right, that's the case. Let's talk about this particular, original Panerai strap, which is beautiful. This is a beautiful strap. Suede, or they call it in Italian, scamoschiato, and it's dark brown. This is the dark brown treatment with beige stitching. Interestingly, where does it say that here? I didn't realize this, but this is made in Austria. Otherwise, you've got Panerai on the other side here. Okay, very... it's just a beauty. I think the variegation that you're already getting on this is very pretty, and of course very robust in terms of thickness near the case, as Panerai straps tend to go. Let's just put it on the wrist now for the wrist shot for you guys. And there you go. So the Luminor base 44mm 8 giorni on my 17cm wrist. It is of course a large watch, but somehow the way it's engineered, the way the styling goes, this kind of sits all right still. Yes, the lugs are pushing the limit on my wrist here, yet somehow, 13.5 thickness, it kind of gets away with it. And that's something that you get with Panerai, right? All right, so that's how it looks like on my wrist. This is a third-party buckle, and that's one of the gripes I have here, is that they didn't even, extend to give a buckle on the extra strap. All right, so what other straps I have here? Now, Panerai are, of course, strap monsters, and you really want to experience different straps here. So I have the original rubber here. I have a strap from Timepiece Republic from eBay. Some people have kind of talked about this on forums, and it's pretty good. It's not as thick, but if you want a comfortable soft leather with grain, so not crocodile, but kind of a cow leather, this is actually pretty good. And the hardware, again, they're pretty good hardware that they've provided. This one is from Nomad Watchworks. So a Singapore-based company reached out to me and asked for a leather strap for Panerai, and this one is also pretty good. I think this one's going to be my favorite to use day in, day out, actually, probably to keep this on this one rather than original for most of the time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put screenshots in quarters here. I'm going to put Nomad Watch on the top right. I'm going to put the Timepiece Republic on top ref, and then I'll put screenshots of the original rubber with or without the the silly bezel guard, case guard for you guys to see here. Okay, and you can appreciate how much just changing straps changes the character of this watch. That's something that's well known with Panerai, and I've really enjoyed playing around with the straps. And as you know, with a lot of Panerai owners, you never stop at a few straps. You probably end up with a dozen or so. Well, let's see how I go. Okay, so that's the the discussion of this watch. Let's talk about my thoughts. Right, I'm going to start with the negatives here. Why would you spend this much? I forgot to mention the MSRP is 6,000 USD. Of course, you're not going to pay that. You're going to pay some amount off, maybe 10%, maybe around 5,000 if you want to pick this up on grey retail. That's around the price. Why would you pay that much for a watch which really is that simple, right? The size, the audacity of the 44mm or 50 with the crown, the absolutely basic function. Now, keep in mind, you can't even read minutes of this accurately. There's no chaptering. That isn't going to be for everyone. You're not going to want a precision, absolute precision out of this watch. It's very basic. The finish, arguably, is just simplistic, right? It's of course high level, but really it's just all polish on the case here. The fit isn't 100% either. In terms of this crown guard attachment, I criticized the Kimsdon piece of crap that I did before. But this one, if you hold up to a bright light, you actually can see light shining through the gap on the top part here. So the fit even then is not 100% on the real thing. The value proposition, I think, given all that, is going to be hard to swallow for some people, because at this money, you're talking about Omega, Tudor, Breitling. At this price range, you're going to have a lot of competition from watches which are, I guess, in a sense, more complex in some ways. Would you actually go for this? Some people wouldn't, they can't swallow that. The faux patina lume on this specific model, not the best performing. They skimped on the extra buckle, which is a bit annoying. What are the strengths of this? Well, look, I think it's got a simply classic design with somehow a magical aura, right? I think it defies convention on how, despite its size, it somehow works. It somehow sits okay on a wrist, even one like mine, which is not a very large wrist, and somehow it gets away despite its size. A very basic time display. You're really getting a rough idea of minutes, not even a chapter ring. It kind of pares life down to a level of simplicity, which has been pleasant and, in a way, relaxing, really. That's what I find about wearing this particular piece. It is, of course, as a Panerai, a strap monster like no other, and it changes character so dramatically with a switch of the strap. And that's something that is a joy, really, having this piece. And then, of course, you're talking about a movement, right? It's a somewhat groundbreaking 8-day movement, which offers profound convenience, right? One wind up and it lasts a whole week, and then you only need to wind it up again, 7 days later, perhaps even 8 days if you remember to do it right before it goes down to 0. Okay, so there you go, guys. That's my thoughts on this Luminor base model. Let's flip the camera around now for the wrap up. So there you go, guys. My review of the Panerai PAM00914, the Luminor base 44mm with 8-day movement. Let me know what you think about this watch and this review. I think there are definitely detractors from the brand, in terms of how much they charge these days and what they offer, because overall the designs in many ways are quite simplistic, and this one kind of captures a lot of that essence actually. Yet I think for that reason is also the model that I think I would first choose. I think the watches have a little bit about this weird thing where they were originally designed for kind of navy purposes, very much function ruling over the form. So they were never really supposed to look very good or pretty. Yet somehow they have become so popular with a cult following once Panerai made watches available for public purchasing. So guys, look forward to your thoughts and discussion below. If you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys again next time.